Connecticut's Dan Hurley turned down the Los Angeles Lakers' 6-year, $70 million offer and will return to chase a third straight national championship. That's what sources told ESPN. LA would have made him one of the NBA's 6 highest paid coaches. So for more on Hurley's decision, let's welcome in our senior NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, how exactly did Hurley decide to stay at UConn here?
Malika, I think that perhaps the biggest part for Dan Hurley, the timing of this, significant Lakers offer, the fact that he's got a team returning at UConn that can do something that hasn't been done since John Wooden's UCLA teams, and that's win a third straight NCAA championship. And certainly in the end, I think that was as big of a factor as any, because Dan Hurley, his family, they were quite taken with the Lakers, with the proposal, with the vision that Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss laid out for them. I think there was a lot of momentum coming out of that meeting Friday night into Saturday. But ultimately, Dan Hurley was always going to go back east and think this through a couple days. But the Lakers put an offer on the table, that would have put him, in the very top echelon of NBA coaches. You talk about top 6 highest paid at essentially almost $12 million a year. The coaches in front of him, had won perhaps as many as a dozen championships, from Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, Eric Spoelstra, Ty Lue. And so they were offering Dan Hurley the chance to be in that stratosphere. But in the end, I don't think this came down to money. He's going to get a new deal at UConn. It won't be as much as the Lakers deal. But I think for him, a lifelong East Coast guy, Jersey City, New Jersey, college coach at Wagner URI, and obviously now at UConn. Dan Hurley's ambition has always been to get to the NBA. I know we talked to, especially in the last few days, other coaches who made the jump. I think he had a lot of encouragement to do it if he felt ready. But I think the common theme he heard from people was, if you still feel like you've got things left to do in college, especially with his UConn team, that might be a reason to stay back. And ultimately, that's what Dan Hurley's done.
So the Lakers head coaching search, it continues with Dan Hurley returning to UConn. Woj, let's bring in the rest of our panel here. Chiney Ogwumike, Richard Jefferson holding it down in our Los Angeles studios. Austin and I are beaming in from various parts of the country. So Richard, what do you think it says about the state of the Lakers that Dan Hurley decided to go back to UConn to chase that third straight national title?
Well, I think first that Dan Hurley made the decision based off of what was on the other side, not necessarily what was with the Lakers. But let me just say this. This is not good enough for the Lakers. The Lakers can't have a coach within their grasp and not close the deal. That's what Buss was always about. When we talk about Dr. Buss, it was always about closing the deal, whether it was a superstar player, whether it was a superstar coach in Phil Jackson. And now I look at the last few coaching searches that they had. They missed out on T. Lue. They couldn't come to terms with T. Lue for a variety of reasons, and I'm going to blame the Lakers on that because I do know some of the things that caused pause. Then all of a sudden you get a coach and he wins a championship, and then you fire him. Then you get a coach that goes to the conference finals, and then you fire him. And now you have a coach within your grasp and you're not able to pull it off. At the end of the day, this is not who the Lakers are. The Lakers are a team that see what they want, they go get it. I understand that he didn't take the job, but now the Lakers are in a very, very difficult position with time running out before the draft, and it's looking more messy, in my opinion, that they weren't able to get it done.
Yeah, I agree, Richard. The Lakers, they had a plan, and it was a beautiful plan for some time, but it definitely backfired here because I think one thing maybe Coach Hurley recognized, which all coaches in the NBA recognize, is that nobody is necessarily safe despite their success. As Richard said, hey, you can go to the Western Conference Finals, you can lose to the defending champs, and that's still not good enough because there's an expectation for a championship each and every year when you are with the Lakers or even potentially with the Boston Celtics, and that's a problem that does not provide necessarily the security. Also, especially when you have things left you want to do in college where maybe potentially UConn can use this to match or up his own offer in that regard. And last but not least, if you think about the Lakers, this would be their 8th head coach since 2010. There's not stability, and the goal is to build that, but you can't be, like, if you're going off of the last few years, how do you believe in that if you're trying to make the decision yourself?
One element of that, guys, is I don't know that was as much of a concern for Dan Hurley because of the years on the contract, because of the money. And the fact that I think the Lakers sold him on the idea that this was a chance for all of them to do something different, to build a program out, that they wanted Dan Hurley's program. I don't think it was the idea that the expectation was going to be had to win a championship in the next year, that this was a team that it was all or nothing in terms of his job security. I think what appealed to Dan Hurley was the idea of coming in and what the Lakers were selling him on. Get Max Christie better, get Austin Reeves better, get your younger players improved. And certainly you're trying to win with Anthony Davis, with LeBron James. But I think ultimately it was more about what Dan Hurley had at UConn and the timing of this decision. You know, he saw Billy Donovan take the Orlando job, then come back, then win 2 national championships, have more to do at Florida before he finally left for Oklahoma City. But I think for Hurley, I think the Lakers made a compelling case. And when you look at what he was offered, you know, almost $12 million a year, that was more than double what he was making at UConn. He'll get up higher among the elite in college basketball. But there was never a case, I was told in the last few days, where Dan Hurley said, hey, if you hit this number, I'm coming. Because you can't negotiate necessarily against yourself. And so I think that was a big part of it. Not so much the money, not so much, I think, the fear that this was going to be a quick hook. Rob Pelinka was putting himself out there with a college coach. Rob Pelinka had to make sure this worked. I think he certainly would have put a lot of pressure on himself, but they saw Hurley as a unicorn candidate. I don't know that there was a number that Dan Hurley was necessarily chasing. He was going to make a lot of money at either place. I think it had to do more with the timing.
I mean, listen, the Lakers are under the gun here just due to the fact that they're not just trying to go out there and find a coach on the market. They're trying to poach somebody already, you know, established somewhere else. You know, like Woj said, there was never a number in mind that, if they could get to, he would leave. And this is coming off of back-to-back national champions. This is where we're at with the Lakers. So, I don't know where they go from here. But there's not a lot of people available even right now in the market that you can look at and be like, hey, he's the guy.